Train the muscles, not the joints. Welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding Mountain. And tonight I'm going to do some inclines here and move on to some back. And maybe I'll do some biceps after that. Maybe I'll be lazy. I don't know. I mowed the lawn today. You know, I was weed whacking and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes I get lazy, but we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll do some biceps or maybe I'll do some triceps. I'm an open-minded kind of guy. You know, sometimes it's a bicep day, sometimes it's a tricep day. And after I train a little bit of chest and back first, then I decide from there. I'm like, you know, I search deeply within and then find out if the biceps need training or the triceps, or sometimes even both. I don't know. So basically what I'm going to start with is some inclines here. I'm going to do a couple lightweight sets just to warm up. And I'm going to answer a question right now first, though, before I move on. Some people ask about how to feel certain body parts, and they sometimes obsess about the fact that they cannot connect with a certain muscle group or not. And I understand that in the beginning when you're training, it takes time to establish the motor pathways. And for this reason, a lot of times you're going through the motions in the training when you're a beginner and you don't necessarily have those pathways recruited yet. So it's kind of like as you train and you develop more muscle, you start to develop more mind-muscle connection. And a lot of people make the mistake of thinking you have to get mind-muscle connection before you can build muscle. But the truth is, if you don't have any muscle or very little, it sometimes will be hard for you to feel the muscle in that area. And only through you getting to a certain level of development will you start to establish that connection. Now, I know it seems counterintuitive compared to what you've heard on the internet. A lot of people say, no, you just have to have the mind-muscle connection, then you can grow. I had this beer-drinking, crystal meth-using dude try to tell me that all you have to do is flex the muscles and they'll grow. And yeah, you don't even need to lift any weights. And the guy had absolutely no physique, right? So it was kind of funny. He was trying to give me advice on how to train. But the truth is that mind-muscle connection, although it can help you gain muscle, it is not necessary in order for you to gain muscle. As long as you can flex and contract that muscle and lift something, something is going to grow. And at some point you start to establish that. And I know this because I experienced it. In the first 3 or 4 years of training, I couldn't feel my back or my chest when I was training. I could feel that they would hit fatigue, but I didn't have as much of a deep muscle connection like I have now. So this mind-muscle connection develops over time and becomes deeper. And then you start to become more and more and more in tune with the body, and you're able to make decisions based on that. So yeah, if you can't feel an area, don't worry yourself to death about it. It will come. Just try different movements and try to train those areas with the prescribed exercises for those areas, and just trust that in time the connection will start to develop. And that's what I got to say about that. So yeah, let's do a set, and or maybe 2 sets. I don't know. Maybe I'll do 2 warm-ups. Now, the nice part about high frequency training, or the, 2-day splits, or any type of training that's a little bit more frequent, is that you don't feel the need or the necessity to train every aspect of a certain muscle group to make sure you hit every possible angle in one workout. So today I'm just going to do inclines for chest, and I'm okay with that because a couple days ago I did a lot of flat bench. I did a lot of flat type movements, right? So you can choose an angle and just hit that muscle group for that angle, because in a day or two you're going to be training that body part again. So that's the nice part about high frequency training. You're not obsessing about hitting every possible angle in every single workout. And that's the thing. I find that when you only train a body part once a week or so, say with a bro split, what happens is that it's so long by the time you come back around to that body part again, you're worried about whether you hit every possible angle and whether you're out of shape or not. And the other problem is, a lot of times you're getting in a good 3 or 4 sets with one exercise, then another 3 or 4 sets with another exercise, and so on. And by the time you get to certain areas, you're never really hitting them fresh, right? You're hitting them when they're already exhausted, or maybe you don't have enough gas in the tank to really push that new angle of attack into a deep level of failure, or to even challenge it, because you're fighting exhaustion more than muscular exhaustion. It's more like systemic exhaustion. So the neat part is, when you start a workout and you're only going to do 3 or 4 sets for a given body part, but you're going to use this one main exercise as your attack, right? You're going to attack it with this one main exercise. The neat part is that you're fresh for that certain angle, and that's the thing. So that's why I recommend, even if you are doing a bro split, to change up the order of the exercises, because you may be always starting with flat bench, for instance, but maybe by the time you get the incline, you're already exhausted, so you can't necessarily push that area as hard. So it's good to change it up and to, sometimes start with inclines, or sometimes start with dips, or start with something different. And then from there, you're guaranteeing, or at least ensuring, that you're going to hit these areas more evenly, right? But yeah, I'd rather approach it from the higher frequency point of view, because I find the first 3 to 6 sets of any body part is really the only real work sets that most people can get in with the major sort of compound exercises. Now, if we're going to talk about isolations when it comes down to arm training or calves, or, even if we're doing something like isolations on the legs, like leg extensions and leg curl, yeah, you can get a lot more sets in with that type of exercise, and it's not quite as fatiguing on the whole system. But if you're doing bench presses or squats or deadlifts or whatever, once you get past 5 or 6 sets, you're pretty much done. Like, your whole system is pretty much burnt, right? So I found that usually the threshold for growth is anywhere from 3 to 6 sets, and that's good. And then you can move on to another exercise or another body part altogether. For the most part, that's what I found for myself. Now, the nice part is also with higher frequency training is you'll notice that you keep your groove. Like I noticed with bro splits and in programs that demand a lot of volume but a lot of rest in between a given workout, is that by the time I came back around to training a certain exercise, I almost lost, or actually I did lose, coordination with that exercise. So that's why I found that my strength naturally started to go up once I changed from a 3 or 4 day split type program to a 2-day split program. And I have the 2-day splits on my website. I don't know, put it here or put it here. I don't know where I'm going to put it, but I have them on my website. But regardless of whether you decide to get my workout or not, what I'm saying is the general principle is the same. Lower volume, higher frequency ended up with greater coordination. Therefore, I could lift more weight. And when I could lift more weight more often for more reps, I naturally was putting on more strength and size from that. So it doesn't mean that other programs are useless or anything. It just meant that this was more of an optimization of workouts for myself. For you, you might find it different. So don't get mad at me if it's different for you, but that's what I found for myself. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt and apply it if it works. If it doesn't work, then just send me $495,000 to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com as compensation for you not accepting my advice. It doesn't have to make sense, just send the money. Just send the money. So yeah, that was my first set with the 105s. I might do another set, which is, again, what a lot of people wouldn't recommend because they don't want you to exhaust yourself. But I'm going to do another set with the 105s. And then if it feels right, then I'm going to go to the 120s just for one set. And that could be my entire upper chest workout. That's the neat part about it. Sometimes I'll do super intense only for 2 or 3 sets, and usually 3 sets. But other times I'll actually do like a full 5 sets, you know? So I kind of go on what my reserves feel like or what my muscles feel like doing. I know this seems kind of weird, but as you train for a period of time, you start to get a feeling for when you've pushed too far in the moment, and also a feeling of when to push harder. You start to develop this, this sixth sense. Sixth sense, that's a weird thing to say, isn't it? Anyway, you start to develop this sixth sense around what the muscles need in the moment. So sometimes I need more volume. Sometimes I can feel that. Sometimes it's like the muscles, they need to be pushed harder. And then other times it feels like just blasting them real quick and then moving on to something else is more effective. And a lot of times when I do super heavyweight, sometimes I feel that. Sometimes when I'm doing heavyweight, I feel like I've already stimulated enough, and then it's time for me to move on to the next body part. So yeah, you get a feeling for this over time. And I found that also for those people who don't have much mind-muscle connection, I found that higher frequency training helps establish that because it builds those neural pathways faster than if you do some sort of bro split program where you're only training the body part once a week. If you train the body part more often with less volume, you'll start to notice that your mind-muscle connection exponentially increases. It increases at such a fast rate that you will be astounded at how much easier it is for you to feel the muscles that are being activated. So if you're struggling with mind-muscle activation, I highly recommend trying, one of the programs I have on my website, 2-Day Split. And yes, that helps me support this channel and so forth. Or just try and figure it out on your own. I mean, it's you could benefit from my experience, or you can figure it out on your own. I mean, it's not rocket science, If I figured it out, I'm sure you could, I'm not really that intelligent. But that might also be the weight speaking, because once I get a pump and I start to train, then my intelligence just goes down exponentially during the workout. So that means that my muscles are getting all the blood flow, right? So anyway, yeah, let's do the next set and see what happens from there. I have to say, I'm feeling pretty good. That felt pretty good. It didn't feel heavy at all. It felt comfortable in a good way. I don't know what the 120s are going to feel like. They're probably going to feel a little uncomfortable because I haven't done them for a little while. But one thing I have been doing with my diet lately that feels really good is that I've been eating a lot of grass-fed, organic ground beef and having a little bit of rice with that. I've been drinking raw eggs, right? But they're organic free-range eggs. They're not like the stuff from the store, not that kind of garbage, right? And of course, don't drink raw eggs from the store or from anywhere because of salmonella, but I don't care. I just do it anyway, right? And I find it just easy to get the protein down really quick. So that's great. And I also find that I'm having a bit of carbs as well. So it's not like I'm just on straight fat and protein, but I'm having, that little bit of rice. I'm having some oatmeal in the morning and some blueberries. But what I'm trying to do is not saturate myself so much with carbohydrates, but have enough that I feel like my muscles are full. But then from there, I'm eating as much, protein I can, like through ground beef and through the eggs and through some chicken here and there too. Like I'll have some barbecue chicken or whatever. So I'm not really worried about having the naturally occurring fats. I'm not adding fats to my diet. I'm not adding any sort of canola oils or anything, but natural fats like that are occurring in meat and eggs, I'm not worried about that. I'm okay with having that. And I also drink some goat milk with my coffee in the morning. I have access to some goat milk. So I don't know, it's supposed to be better for you than milk, but I don't know if I notice any difference or not, but I just have goat milk, and sometimes I have normal dairy, but most important thing is that it's organic, no matter which I choose. I get organic stuff right from the farm. So I'm kind of lucky out here because I can do that. That's kind of the gift of living where I live, is that there's a lot of places where I can get access to fresh food right from the farm. I'm not buying it in some sort of box store somewhere. But really the point of what I'm saying is that I'm feeling more pumped, more nourished by having protein and fat, and then topping up with a bit of carbs here and there. So I'm not saturating myself with these meals of just rice and potatoes, but I'm having some, and then I'm making sure that I don't have too much, so that way I don't get fat, right? So I'm lowering down the carbs a little bit to compensate for the extra fat intake I'm taking in, and I'm trying to find that right percentage. And it seems like I've hit a pretty good percentage right now, where I'm having, you know, probably about 150 grams of carbs a day, something like that. It's probably really around 150 to 200 grams of carbs. And then the rest of the day I'm having, you know, my egg yolks and the ground beef and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of a marker for me right now. That's what I'm doing. If I notice that I'm putting on too much fat, then I'll cut back on the fat or the carbs or something here and there. But I'm trying to find that perfect percentage. But right now I feel pretty good. Like everything feels good. It feels like I'm recovering from things. I feel good and pumped when I train. And I feel like my energy is good. And that's the most important thing. You want to pay attention to, how is your energy? How do the muscles feel? How does the texture of the body feel when you're training? And these are all things to pay attention to. And that will lead you to muscular growth, right? If you're feeling like the muscles are full of nourishment, then from there, growth is possible. So this is not an emaciation path. Contrary to what a lot of people on Instagram might tell you, it's not a diet down path. It's a nourish the shit out of yourself, train hard and intense, and then therefore the body can put on muscle. And then from there, you start to cater the diet just a little bit, just to skim some body fat off as you go. But it's definitely not a path of diet yourself and deny yourself nutrition so that way you can cut, right? It's like doing that too much. It's fine for obese people, but if you're trying to be an athlete and put on muscle, it's not going to work for you, not long term anyway, you know. So yeah, that's the path I'm on. It's the man path, you know. It's the real man path. All right, let's do another set, and this time we will try the 120s and see how that goes. Cool, that set was pretty good. Sometimes I find with these dumbbells, it takes a little bit of energy just getting them into place because they're so long that sometimes they hit my leg and it takes me a bit of time to get them in the right position. So that's the only problem with the urethane dumbbells. Sometimes you'll have that problem with them. But that said, my incline is also at a little bit of a steeper angle than I usually use, which is good. That's what I want today. And I still managed to get 7 reps. So that's good. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now I'm gonna go and do some bent over rows. And I'm gonna do some heavy weight today too, a low amount of sets, and mostly just to impress myself because nobody else is impressed. So I'll impress myself. So yeah, with bent over rows, I do some standard warm-ups like usual. I'll go to 1 plate, 2 plates, then I'll move into 3 plates if I feel like going a bit heavier that day. But the one thing I will say about bent over rows, and I made a video about this called the most misunderstood bodybuilding exercise. And the reason why I made that video was because there was so much misunderstanding around you having to bend over more to get more back development. That's the big fallacy out there. And a lot of times when you bend over more, what happens is that you exploit the lower back. And at the same time, when you pull the bar in an arcing motion, you'll just hit yourself in the knees with the bar, right? So anyway, if you guys are having some misunderstandings around bent over rows, you will find that video extremely enlightening. So make sure you tune into it. I'll have it here in the cards or whatever, the most misunderstood bodybuilding exercise. So yeah, make sure you check that out if you are somehow getting triggered from me not bending over parallel to the floor, okay? Because I'm not gonna do that. I do more like a Dorian Yates type row, but I'm telling you, I get all back development from it and all lats and stuff. So it's a really effective way to do bent over rows. But you know, don't believe me, try it yourself. And figure out what works, right? Depending on your bodily dimensions, maybe you do feel that you need to bend over more or not, you know, it's up to you. You know, I'm not the boss of you, right? Nobody's the boss of you. This is a collaboration between you and your body, and to find out where that sweet spot is. And nobody can really tell you where it is. They can give you some ideas, but in the end, your sensations will tell you, and your results, of course. So if some guy with no back whatsoever is telling you how to train back, there might be a possibility that he doesn't know how to train back either. There's a possibility of that. I don't know why I have to point this out, but it seems like the obvious is missed sometimes. So anyway, let's do some bent over rows. Now, as you know, I have a plan. I'm going to 3 plates, and my plan was to do 1 plate warm-up, 2 plate warm-up, but you know what? Feeling the 2 plates on the back, for some reason, feels so good today, I'm gonna do another set with 2 plates, just for fun. I'm just gonna do another set, and yeah, it'll ensure that I'm a little bit more warm, so that's good, and then I'll move up to the 3 plates, but you're gonna find, and this is something that it's good for you to pay attention to. You're going to find that there's certain weights that seem to be, let's just say, the perfect storm for your muscle group. Where if you go a little bit heavier, it doesn't quite feel right, and you go a little lighter, it doesn't feel like it's enough. But if you find that weight, it's kind of like you're the Goldilocks of natural bodybuilding. You know, this porridge is too hot. This porridge is too cold. This one's just right, right? It's just like that. You'll find the Goldilocks weight for you to do a set. And yeah, let's call it the Goldilocks method, right? And you're gonna find that there's these certain sweet spots where you work with this weight, it just feels like the muscles are just contracting and everything is getting a great pump and a great well-being, and you're hitting failure there, but the joints feel good, everything feels perfect. And there's nothing wrong with staying with that weight for a period of time until you feel it's natural for you to move up a little bit. You know, some people, they'll stay with a certain weight for a long time and become a master of that weight, and then they move up into the next weight. That's one technique that you can use. The other one is one that I use a lot, which is I'll use a certain weight, then I'll challenge myself with a heavier weight to put that burden on the body, and then it forces the body to grow into it. But is that the only way to do it? I don't think so. I don't think that's the only way to adapt. So if you feel like you found that sweet spot weight, which just feels like you're really working those muscles, you're getting a great pump, you're getting a great development in your physique, then stick with that. There's nothing wrong with that. So there's a lot of ways to accomplish this, this goal. You know, there's a lot of ways to tread upon this natural bodybuilding path. And yeah, remember the Goldilocks method. Hey, that might be your method. I don't know. It could be. I know I use that method when it comes down to bicep curls or my isolation movements especially. I find the right weight. I don't necessarily just throw in as much weight as possible. I find what is the right weight that feels like I'm contracting the muscles, getting a great fatigue, but not tweaking the joints or straining in a weird dysfunctional way, right? So yeah, so let's do another set of this, and then we'll move on to some heavier weight. Now this is where that synergy comes in, right? So sometimes I'll do the medium weights or more the higher reps, and then I'll put on some good heavy weight on the body to stimulate the overall body. So I find it's great when you combine these two things, maybe not in the same workout, but in your overall training, because there's just a different way of stimulating the body. And like I've said before, this stimulates the overall system from that heavy weight. And then when you start repping out with the lighter weight, it's more effective. So that's what I found. And I've done extensive experiments on this where I went periods of time where I just used medium or light weights and avoided heavy weights altogether, you know, for months at a time. And I noticed that my muscles started to change in quality. They started to get a bit smaller and so forth. So I noticed that when I threw in some heavy weight here and there, as long as I could do it safely, it was advantageous to me. And there was a synergy between that when I combined it with the lighter rep ranges. So then everything becomes better. So it's okay to do the heavier weight sometimes when the form doesn't look as pretty. And that can give you better results than you sticking to pretty form all the time. As long as you can do it safely, that's all. So don't be taking risks if you can't maintain some sort of form that is safe for your own body type, right? But for myself, I find if I go heavier, like I've done 4 plates for bent over rows, but I find 3 plates or 3.5 plates is good enough to do heavy sets with. And then I'll do days where I'll just do 225 for bent over rows, and maybe I'll play around with the angles and so forth. So yeah, just remember that. Heavyweight's not always bad. As much as some people say, oh yeah, don't do heavyweight if you can't maintain perfect form. It's not necessarily true, honestly. Sometimes there's just an advantage of putting heavyweight on the spine and on the joints and on the muscles and bones themselves. And then from there you can start using a lighter weight, right? So yeah, that was set number 1. I'm gonna do 3 sets with this. Now, a final point I want to bring up is that the first time you touch heavy weight or heavier weight than you're used to, you definitely do not want to combine a high amount of volume along with lifting that heavy weight, because the body's already having trouble lifting it. It's already a big challenge on the system. And if you push too deep into failure, some of those stabilizer muscles that are supposed to protect the joint may not be able to do so or keep up with the prime mover, right? And then of course, that's when you get an injury. Or maybe you have a lax, or you basically all of a sudden lose stability or something, and that's where an injury happens. So it's good for you to really concentrate on low volume on the workouts where you want to push that threshold. So yeah, just remember that. Sometimes it's the Goldilocks method, and sometimes it's a super intense method, but lower amounts of volume. And a 2-day split type workout can sometimes allow you to do this with a little bit more freedom and less guilt, because you don't feel obligated to get as much volume in. But no matter what you choose, I hope these tips helped you in your training. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next video, and take care for now. Mountain. I'm going to go do some biceps now, but I'm going to leave you guys because I don't want to edit biceps training too. So yeah, sorry. But yeah, next video will be longer, I guess. I'll do a longer one next time. Mountain.